All right. Welcome back to the book club. In this set of episodes, we moving forward. No Country for Old Men is wrapped up. We on to the next Cormac McCarthy novel. Some would say it's his best. I seen the word magnum opus thrown around when it comes to this. Blood Meridian. So, without further ado, we can go ahead on and get started. Blood Meridian. It's the book that I heard about Cormac McCarthy from. Like I had heard the name of it, never looked into it further than that. I'm talking about like young years type stuff. I heard the name of it and never looked into it further than that. And then I started coming across videos that was on YouTube. Now I hadn't watched any of them because just off of the titles, I wanted to read the book. So I hadn't watched any of the videos. But the titles I was seeing were things to the effect of the most evil character ever in fiction, stuff of that nature. And it was referring to the character that's in the background image, the judge, aka Judge Holden. But we'll just get straight into talking about the book. The book is set in the book is set in the I would guess the 1800s. It's set after slavery ended, but before any type of industrial revolution. It was very much still the Wild West in the setting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Treacherous. Extra treacherous.
treacherous. And that's where we run into our main protagonist. To this point in the book, he's never even gotten a name, just referred to as the kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, like at the beginning of every set of notes that we do, well, I know this is only our second go around. As we start in our second project in this line, but at the beginning of it, I put a little bit of my opening thoughts, like a opening vibe or feel that I got from the first part. Well, that part or that little wrap up is the lawless Wild West, where they kill and attempt to kill as if it's just a part of everyday life. And from there, we're introduced to the main character, the kid, uh, uh, born in Tennessee, runs away from home at 14. His mom is dead. He has a sister, but he was long gone before he ever got a chance to meet her. He traveled by himself, getting as far west as Memphis. So, Memphis is on the far west side of Tennessee. So I'm guessing that he's from the central or the east. Passing slaves in the field along the way. So, I mean, it says he's passing slaves. So I don't even think it's post slavery. Like, it might be about when slavery was about to end. Like the Mexican American War had taken place. I know that much, and we'll get deeper into that part of the situation later on in the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but passing slaves in the field along the way. After about a year, he had made it to St. Louis, and from there he headed to New Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
which was a 42-day boat ride. We could just pause right there and think about the life people was living, where to get from St. Louis to New Orleans, you had to travel down what I'm guessing is the Mississippi River. I don't know. I'm not a geography type, super genius. But for 42 damn days, like what you think about how the setting is being painted just so far in this opening part?
Uh, Definitely in the opening part, I'm seeing hard times. And there's parts of the book. I know we're gonna get to them soon, Because I know you have crazy extensive notes. Like I'll go on and say my notes are probably never gonna get that good, but I have I know of a part of the book where it's like, okay, I'm really seeing the setting and I'm seeing hard times. This book to me is really a real solid play on like hard times. Like you even like just hearing some of the stories like with the kid, like it's and I think hard times, and I also think like it's treacherous. Like it is the most like I guess it's more or less like an outlaw type of situation. Like it's no rules. It's no rules. It's no laws. It's like every man for himself.
Or
So
if it is laws, they don't give a damn
they
about them.
don't. They don't. They don't at all. They don't at all. And it's another part in there where I want to get to where the laws are the law, and I mean, in fact, the laws, but nothing matters. Nothing fucking matters.
Mm-hmm. And we're gonna get to it. We're gonna definitely get to it. And this is one of them books that, you know, you got to start off the adventure of going through this book with a strong stomach. Like you have to, because stuff is explained vividly. Like if you think that some of the situations that took place in No Country for Old Men were explained vividly, like it's not even close. Like when you read through this, you realize that like when because I bought the physical copy of No Country for Old Men, right? And when you open up the book and you have like some of the blurbs from the reviews, one of the reviews said that it was Cormac McCarthy's most accessible work. Like, and then it's not as dense. Not one of. It said it was his most accessible work.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we can repeat like it's because that book was originally created to be a movie screenplay. But I think on the other side of that is that, or to go along with that, I think he wanted to reach a wider audience with that book. Blood Meridian has reached a wide audience, but it is written in a way where it don't seem like he necessarily cared if it did or not, if that makes sense.
Even if this even if this book was made into a movie, this I don't think they could have made this one into a movie. Like I feel like this one is a little too off the edge, yo. Like this shit is insane. Like and some of the stuff that happens and like some of the like how some of the characters are acting, like it's crazy. And it really it and I'll say, and I know we gonna get deeper into the book, but I mean really it starts to really get like you start to really read some of the craziest things in that late third to the end of the fifth chapter.
And now that you just to play off of what you just said, mm-hmm. I did see other like the thing that drew my attention was the Judge Holden type, most evil character in fiction. But make sure this gain is turned down. But I did also see other video titles. I didn't watch any of them. I know it's one that I'm going to watch as soon as we're finished.
Mm-hmm.
But I also saw that one of the headlines was that this is the book that can never be turned into a movie. As a matter of fact, they've tried multiple times and couldn't ever get it done without compromising the vision severely. But that's a little bit of opening thoughts. Let me grab my charger before my note taking device is gone completely dead because I'd left my good charger at the job and I'm not going back over there to get it. Get my portable charger plugged in. But we can continue on. And again, when it comes to the notes too, appreciate it. We're doing our best, but thank you for being here. And when it comes to the notes, like I got a bunch of detailed notes, but you got the highlights. And I think it's due to the different ways that we read in the book. I can't really highlight nothing unless I mark the book up. Mm-hmm. So I think it's good for us to have these two different methods. But as you continue, it was a 42-day boat ride from St. Louis to New Orleans that he took. This is the kid. He stays in a room above a tavern while in New Orleans, and he fights with sailors just for fun. Like this shows you the type of person he is. Like, and it continues on. He's reckless, and he's a hothead. He a smaller guy, but he has unusually large hands and wrists. That might be just based off of how he's had to live life or how he's chosen to live life by leading with his fists and thinking about it later, That's probably what led to him having some unusually large hands and wrists. But you can still tell he's a young guy. Like, even with all the scars, you can still tell he's a young guy. Like, just the paint the picture of how things go down in this tavern. They fight with anything they can get their hands on. Knives, bottles, anything. And it don't matter what color they are, no matter where they're from. People from all over the world that's passing through because it's a port town. So it's sailors passing through on a regular basis. They come in there and they battle it out. One night a sailor brought a gun to the knife fight, shot the kid twice. Mm-hmm. And he had to lay up and recover for 2 weeks, being cared for by the tavern keeper's wife. You know what I mean? She was bringing him food, making sure he didn't die. Like, just being shot and just laying up in the tavern in one of those rooms, getting cared for by the wife of the tavern keeper and not going to the hospital. That shows you not going to seek medical attention, just laying there, hoping that over time you recover and don't die. That shows you where we're going with this story. That shows you exactly where we're going. And it's not pretty.
And one of my favorite parts, I don't mean to cut you off, but one of my favorite parts is this very next part where it's like, yes, the tavern keeper's wife is taking care of him and she tends to him for weeks, right? Weeks.
2 weeks.
But once he is healed, because he ain't got no money, he slips away in the night. So it's like it's kind of like every man for himself. Like, yes, she did everything that she could, but he couldn't pay her, so he felt as if he just had to leave.
Because he would have probably got killed if he stayed. After all of that.
That's true.
And he didn't have no money to pay. He would have probably definitely been executed. At least that's the feeling I had of why he got up out of there. Because you'll see, at least in these first 5 chapters, if it's one thing about the kid, while it's not his entire mentality, 70% of his mentality is self-preservation. 70% of it is. But as we continue, like you said, he recovered for 2 weeks. He woke up with no money, and he headed out. He ends up just going out and sleeping on a riverbank. Sleeping on a riverbank. Until he finds a boat that'll take him in. And it's going to Texas. He hops on it and he's out. At this point, he's no longer a kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's no longer a child. The past is gone. He had to grow up fast. He ran away. His father was an alcoholic. That might have been part of the reason why he ran off. But like, imagine, how you grow up in certain parts of the country or certain parts of certain cities, and you see kids who have to jump off of the porch and start selling drugs when they like 12, because that's the only way that they can provide. Or that's not the only way that they can provide. That's wrong. That's the only thing that they see. So they say, okay, we broke, heat is off, air is off, electricity is off, mom is strung out. The only thing that I can do is do what I see these guys doing. Take that and multiply it by 50. With what this kid right here is going through. He about 15 or 16 at the present time that we talking right now, of him getting on the boat and is headed to Texas. He arrives in Texas, whatever city that they're in, straight off the boat, walking through the city. The whores are calling out to him. They trying to get pieces of him because it don't matter how old he is. It matters if he got a couple of nickels in his pocket that they can get from him. He proceeds through whatever town he's in, and it's just a man hanged at the crossroads.
Yep.
Noose still around the neck. You know what I'm saying? He works in a diphtheria pest house and ends up getting a mule as payment. A mule that he rides to Nacogdoches. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And this is where one of the first major transgressions of this book takes place. So he arrives in the town of Nacogdoches, and there's a tent revival going on. Within this tent revival, Reverend Green had a full house, as he's had every day since the rainstorm that's raging on right now had started. And the rainstorm had been going for a couple weeks at this time, so he's just been packing that tent out, preaching the word of God. The kid goes into the tent, so packed that it's standing room only. He stood there with some other guys similar to himself, or so he thought, but he wasn't armed, but most of them were. Like, the kid is just in there making small talk with another member of the crowd as the Reverend preaches. And then, as the sermon goes on, a giant man in an oilcloth slicker steps into the tent. He removes his hat. His head is bald. His face is bald. Not even an eyebrow or eyelash to speak of. But he didn't take off his hat to respect this house of God. He took it off just to shake the water off. And as soon as his hat was dry to his liking, he put it back on. Standing about 7 feet tall, smoking a cigar, showing no reverence. He commanded attention. Everybody turned to look at him. As soon as he stepped in. And it's like he was floating, like he's just moving, because this is a standing room only event. And he made his way to the front of it, right in front of the pulpit, with no effort. It's like they cleared the way for him. like he parted the Red Sea. And then he addresses the congregation. And he says, I feel it's, or I'm going to paraphrase it. He states, I feel it's my duty to inform you that this man is an imposter. He holds no papers from any religious institution. He has usurped this office and has only committed a few Bible passages to memory. He doesn't even have the slightest qualification. He preaches fraudulent sermons. In truth, not only is he illiterate, but he's wanted by the law in 4 different states. The Reverend is trying to protest this. He's hollering out that this man is telling lies. But you already know. Look at the internet today.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring up a rapper. And this is going to be brief. It's a rapper named Chingy that just so happened to take a picture with somebody who he thought was a fan. This was a transgender individual who Chingy had never met before they took that picture. That individual told the world that them and Chingy was having a romantic relationship. And it was a complete lie. And Chingy tried to tell everybody that it was a lie, but nobody cared. His career was ruined from that point on. You know, and this is back in the time, this is back in the earlier part of the 2000s where something like that was frowned upon. Like that's just what the world was back then. You can like it or not like it. So I say that to say the more sensational story is always the one that's going to get the legs. So the Reverend is hollering out that these are lies, but him hollering out that these are lies is just not more attention grabbing than what this man that's standing 7 feet tall at the pulpit is saying. So the man continued on a variety of charges, the latest one of which involves an 11-year-old girl who came to him in trust, who he was caught violating while in his church garb. The whole crowd sighs. Hold on just a second. Sorry about that. So the whole crowd sighs. At this point, the Reverend is yelling that the man is the devil himself, yelling it through tears. He's crying, sobbing, because he knows what's coming next. Mm-hmm. Somebody in the crowd, what did they scream? Let's hang him.
And let's stop right there for a second.
Go ahead.
It shows you how truly reckless the lifestyle is to these people, whereas they were just listening to this Reverend, right? And they're believing what he's saying, like they're in there really listening. But as soon as one slight change happens and you have Judge Holden who comes in at 7 feet, no hair on his face at all, it's just like how is he so believable and nobody else?
He commanded the attention.
Exactly. So it's like, whereas they had probably been listening to this Reverend for God knows how long, and all of a sudden now, since Judge Holden came in there, it's all different.
Man screams out, let's hang him. That comes from the crowd. And Holden continued. Mm-hmm. Not 3 weeks ago, or the judge. He's just called the judge at this point. And I think he was named Judge Holden at one point already, but The judge is what he's commonly referred to as. So anyway, um, the man continued. 3 weeks ago, he was ran out of Arkansas for having his way with a goat. A man in the crowd suddenly then just drew a pistol and shot at the reverend.
Lawless.
He had heard enough. Pistol drawn, bullets flying immediately. The person that looks kind of like one of the Teamsters members that the kid was talking to cut a hole in the tent and they escaped out. They went across the mud to a hotel. The tent is erupting in gunfires, damn near a stampede. People spilling out of the tent into the muddy streets. And when they entered the bar that's at the hotel, the bald man was already in there. They attempted to buy drinks, and this is when we learn his name. But the bartender pushed the money back towards them and said, "These drinks are on the judge." A posse is already chasing the preacher down the street. And a few of them entered the bar and gathered around the judge. And they asked him, "How did you come to have the goods on that there pastor?" He said, "The goods? Yeah, when were you in Fort Smith?" "Fort Smith?" "Yes. How did you know all that stuff you knew about him?" "Oh, you mean Reverend Green?" "I never been in Fort Smith a day in my life, and I doubt that he has." They looked at him confused. "Then where did you run across him at?" "I've never laid eyes on him before today, never even heard of him." And then the judge took a drink. They sat silent, and then just like nothing, the whole room just erupted into laughter, as if that man they just killed was was a laughing matter. A man that they just killed over nothing. No, he might have been a shyster, but we had no evidence pointing towards that in the slightest. Mm-hmm. And you want me to tell you the most surprising thing about this whole situation?
What?
That whole scenario took place on page number 6.
Exactly. And that is the craziest thing about this book, though, because yes, all that has happened, it's still so much more that has to happen in this book. Like, and it just, like, and I'm reading that, and I really had to, like, look up, like, did I miss something? Like, am I reading it wrong? Like, what's going on? And it's like, no, like, it's written that way for a reason, because I'm sitting there really like, why is it going so fast? Like, it's literally like, why did this happen? Like, I'm wondering, like, why did it happen? And it's no reason to why it happened. And it really just goes to show you how lawless the times were. Like, this is not a normal time. This ain't a normal time period. It's not.
Definitely not normal to what we would call normal. And on top of that, like you were just mentioning, why is the pace of it so fast? Like, why is the introduction to this character is him getting somebody killed was something that he just made up on the spot? For all we know, he could have just been passing through and just saw a tent revival happening and decided he was going to step up in there and stir up trouble. Or he's painted as like a mystical figure, because we're going to come across him again in the not too distant future of the book. But peep how they stated that, yes, by the time the kid and the person he was with got across the street from the tent to the hotel, He was already in there taking a drink.
Right, right. That was another thing that I thought was kind of crazy because I'm like, all right, when all of the chaos and stuff really erupted, Judge was gone. Judge got out of there, but it's like it. I guess when all the pandemonium started, he really got out of there, and I guess it didn't say anything about him running or anything. So obviously, he was moving very swift. Like he was moving as if he doesn't have a care in the world, and it's like just kind of. Because you and like you said, you run into his character at a brief moment in the near future, and it's almost like his character is like, can I call it what hold on, I had the words and then they left. Unplanned chaos. That's kind of like what Judge Holden is. He's just chaos. Like, and like I want to. We got to get through it because literally where you end off is where you re-meet Judge Holden again at a different time. So it's like you really
it's not.
Really
it's not him.
Like,
it's not him.
Oh,
nah, it's not that. Where they end off at chapter 5, that's not Judge. That's not the Judge who he comes back across. No, it's not him.
Okay. I thought.
Yeah, but it's and the person who he comes back across ain't much of a better person, but it ain't the Judge, no. But it's somebody who we know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But we'll continue. The kid comes across a character named Toadvine. At this point, it's been raining for 16 days. These two guys, the kid and Toadvine, meet just trying to pass each other in a narrow hallway. And you know what that means. Well, you can't be the weak one that moves out of the way for the other guy. So it was time to battle it out.
Mm-hmm.
So Toadvine says to him, you better get out of my way. And the kid wasn't going to do it. So he kicked him square in the face. It was either kick a person in the face or just turn slightly so y'all can pass each other. And it's like the rational option wasn't even an option. You know, it was kick him in the face. That was the option and nothing else. And that's what he did. They fought with fists, knives, broken bottles, aiming to kill each other. They spilled out of the saloon into the mud. Fight was only broken up when a man carrying a giant club appeared and knocked the kid face down in the mud to the point where he would have drowned if somebody didn't flip him over. When he woke up, it was daylight already. So this was that brawl started the night before. He got knocked face first into the dirt and woke up the next morning. So imagine people just passing him in the street, knocked out. And when he woke, Toadvine was standing over him. Said, you aim to quit? Or do you want more? Because we can get back at it. The kid at this point doesn't even know if he can really move, let alone still fight. Once he gets up, he can't find his boots, and he's ready to kill about his boots. Again, like you stated, this is a ruthless setting.
And you also got to look at it into the eyes of the kid. It's like you already don't have much. So, like, if you don't got your boots, that's a very essential part of your life at that point. Like, you need your boots. Like, like you, and yes, you got him. He got a mule or whatever, but he has to do a lot of walking. So,
right.
Your boots are kind of your life for real.
And listen at how it progresses. Listen to this. He finds his boots. He also finds the Bowie knife that would have been an instrument in his own death, not but a few hours ago. And he returns it back to the man who was his enemy just the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just decide, all right, we rolling together now. And they walk into the hotel. Tovine has his eyes on somebody else, a man named Sidney. Where's Sidney? He asked the bartender. I'm guessing that he's in his room, but he'll shoot you, Tovine. Tovine is thinking, well, he's going to have to get his chance to do it. So they go to Sidney's room and they knock on the door. Sidney doesn't answer. They knock again and he doesn't answer. So you tell the good people, after he didn't answer after that second set of knocks, what did these two guys deem it appropriate to do to get his ass out of that room?
They set the damn door on fire. And see, this is, and I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, so it's like, let alone, you know, where these guys literally just fighting to the death, right? You go into the hotel looking for somebody, and he in his room with the door locked. You decide to set the door, burn him out. You just decide you're gonna burn him out. Obviously, this is just it's a different place. This is a different time. It is a time of no rules. No rules. But yeah, they burned the door down, basically.
So the room is on fire. That's enough to lure him out. And when he's out in the hallway, they ambush him. Tovine plucks his eye right out of the socket, hollers at the kid, kick him in his mouth. And the kid did it. They leave, and not only did they leave, they assaulted the hotel clerk on the way out. Mm-hmm. So the chaos that they caused upstairs wasn't enough. They had to do more for the road. All right. The kid went to retrieve his mule. And when they rode back through town, the hotel was fully on fire, with a group of men watching it burn, one of which was the judge. Mm-hmm. And they rode past, and it's like the judge had a sixth sense. He knew. As if he knew the kid was riding past, and he turned to him and smiled. And that's the last that we see of him for now. At this point, after the kid flees Nacogdoches, he has nothing but that mule. He's turned into a beggar and a thief. And he's just traveling by himself, so him and Tovine have parted ways by this time. Mm-hmm. He's damn near destitute. He's wearing a hat that he made from leaves and sleeping in grass fields, because that's all that he can do with himself at this point. He keeps going, and soon he runs across some smoke signals. He follows them. Ends up at the hut of a hermit. The kid asks for water. Hermit gives him some. The water was disgusting and salty. but he drinks it. And this demonstrates to you the state that he was in. This is desperation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? This is foreshadowing, because if he doesn't take this drink of disgusting, salty, bug ridden, bacteria ridden water to show you the desperation that he's feeling at this time, then his future actions wouldn't make sense. It's a subtle storytelling. It's subtle storytelling, but it's there. The hermit is a sporadic type of guy with his eyes darting around constantly. He's happy to give some hospitality to the kid, but he don't give a damn about that mule that the kid rode in on. Kid wants him to get some water because he knows, what I'm saying, it's his transportation. He has to keep him alive. He says, I'm not giving him anything because I'm not drinking behind no mule. So like they're just drinking out of a communal bucket of water.
Mm-hmm.
The kid offers to go get some fresh water. The hermit points him on his way to a well. So he goes up there to get the water. A storm is rolling in. So the hermit offers him to stay. And the kids ask him how long has he been living this way. He doesn't really want to answer, but he gives a piece of his past. He was once a slaver in Mississippi, made good money and never got caught, but he got tired of it, especially tired of the niggers. That's his words, not mine.
That's another thing. I'm reading this shit and I'm like, whoa. Whoa there, Cormac. Cormac won't giving a shit. Cormac was like, I'm right there. Yeah, I wrote it. Yeah, I wrote it. I wrote that shit. Yeah, I did. All right. Yeah,
it's there. All right. There in black and white print.
No cap. It's there. It's there. but it goes into this book though, because this shit get wild. Like it get wild.
I mean, in a certain part of the country during this time period, if you was black, you was a nigga.
Yeah.
That's just how it was.
That's truth.
So what we gonna say about it? It is what it is. That's what we gonna say. Well, like he said, he was tired of the niggas. And the hermit told the kid that he wanted to show him something, and he passed him a dried human heart. Kid handed it back to him. This was the heart carved from a black man. That's where it came from. Hermit then goes on with his rant, says 4 things that can destroy this earth: women, whiskey, money, and niggers. Mm-hmm. That's what he said. Hermit asked the kid if he lost his way in the dark. Kid didn't answer. The hermit continues, God made this world, but he didn't make it to suit everybody. Kid says, I don't think he had me in mind when he made the world. And then the hermit says, what makes you think you can't find meanness in the smallest of creatures? Creature can do anything, but when God made man, the devil was at his elbow. The devil was at his elbow. Meaning that, of course, the kid is complaining about everything he's experienced in the world. But the hermit is basically expressing that the most evil thing in this world is me and you, not the stuff that you've run across. The kid and the hermit eat rotten prairie dog meat that the hermit cooked and wondered if it would rain, because it's thundering and lightning at this point, but the rain hasn't started. Then they went to sleep, and this was some freaked out stuff that happened next.
Yeah.
The kid wakes up in the middle of the night, and the hermit is just hunched over him. What do you want? He asked him, but the hermit didn't even speak. He just crawled away.
But see, you also got to think about it like this too, right? The hermit most likely has never had anybody, like, he won't talking to nobody, and all of a sudden you get somebody new that's kind of like entered your circle. He also probably thought about robbing them. He also probably thought about killing them. Like, you really
He might have thought about fucking him.
that too. That too.
You know,
Like,
we don't know what he thought about.
that's what I'm saying, because it's so, like, you don't really know what's next in this book. Like, you never really know what they thinking. So it's kind of up to your it's only up to your imagination what else would have happened if the kid wouldn't have woke up.
He wakes up the next morning to an empty hut. Was that hermit ever even there in the first place? I thought when I read that part, like, was he a hallucination? Like, was the kid so delirious?
Dog meat and he found it.
Yeah, disgusting water that's dirty and dingy and salty, even though it's from a fresh water source. Are we made to believe a person's been living off that? Like, I didn't know whether whether he was just hallucinating. He might have been dying of thirst at this point, and his mind was just playing tricks on him, for all that we know. You know, but we continue on because he didn't put much thought into the hut being empty. He gathered up his stuff and left. He continues to wander, making his way through a forest. Sleeps on the floor in the woods. He wakes. He continues on until he runs into a group of cattle herders and joins with them. Ashamed of the state that he's in, he lies and says that he got robbed instead of he's just a dilapidated bum beggar. He says he was robbed. And he said when he was robbed, they got everything, even his knife. They didn't, because nobody robbed him. The cow herders invite him to join them permanently. And then they tell the kid about a group of some of their old members who left to join up. Man, I done fucked the notes. Who they left to join up with an army company. I left that part out of the notes. They headed to a city called Bexar. And they're probably there drinking their brains out, having hookers. Kids decide that's where he wants to be. He doesn't want to be traveling out in the woods and across the desert herding cattle, across the prairies. He wants to be in Bexar. So they tell him, go straight south. Tell Lonnie that Oren said get a piece for him, a piece of a prostitute. The herders give him some food, and I want you to remember this part. They give him food, give him a new knife, and he leaves. He arrives in Bexar, passing a dead cart full of bodies on his way into the town. Gets water from a well for him and his mule and proceed through the town. There's no one in sight in the streets or in buildings, but he can hear music in the distance. He follows the sound to the town square, comes across a group of people, might be a group of Mexican people, having a party in the street. He goes into a bar and offers to work for a drink. but the men only speak Spanish. They seem to mock him though. And then he finally offers he offers to sweep the bar for a drink, but they don't know what he's talking about. They can't understand him. He's making a sweeping motion at the bartender. They're still laughing at him. The barkeep pretty much shooed him out. You know what I'm saying? Well, no, I'm skipping. I'm getting ahead of myself. If he finally allows him to sweep, and then after he sweeps up the whole bar, the barkeep then shooed him out. Like, even though the kid was clearly making his intentions known that he wanted to sweep in exchange for a drink. So, what does he do next? After he shooed him out, he decided to attack him. But the bartender wasn't going for that. He came from under that bar with a flintlock pistol. An old man then said something to the barkeep in Spanish, and he put the pistol down and attempts to beat the kid with a mallet. The kid dodges it and heads for the bar. He unloads the pistol, but he takes 2 bottles. Now, at this point, I'm thinking, all right, he's just about to steal these bottles. But no, he beats the bartender unconscious with one of them and stabs his eye out with the broken bottleneck. The entire bar is filled with armed men, but they just stand still, silent. They just look at him. He then goes and replaces the broken bottle with a fresh one and leaves. He just got to town, bruh. He just got there. What do you think about that?
It just goes to show you how critical it was for, like, it shows you how critical it was to be able to understand what the people are saying because they were speaking a different language. He probably also felt disrespected. And he wasn't going to work for anything at that point. So I guess when he felt like he was disrespected and they had him work for nothing, he felt like he had to resort to other things, which how much else does he really know? You got to also really look at who the kid is, you know, like, but stabbing his eye out, I feel like that was crazy. You don't think that was a bit much?
At this point, every single situation, he has decided to lead it off with violence. You know, the only situation where he wasn't inciting the violence, the only violence he's been around so far that he didn't incite was the violence in the tent, in the revival tent. You know, but every other situation he's gotten into, so it's not even surprising that that's how he decided to reciprocate not getting his drink. Like, because as far as he was concerned, they understood that he was sweeping that bar for a reason. You know, not just to clean up their damn floor. You know, as far as he was concerned, he made it plain that he wanted a drink. And as far as the barkeep was concerned, he didn't care what he made it plain. He wasn't going to give him nothing anyway, no matter what he wanted. Like, that was pretty clear. Like, he never planned, even if he did know what the kid was talking about, he wasn't going to give the kid anything. So, like, that's what I felt like about it. The kid went to sleep and woke up in the floor of a church, a ruined church. Floor is caked up in animal shit. The church is on a 10-acre plot of land with houses occupied by squatters. The church had the remains of a few bodies, one of them a child. The mule was missing, but the kid tracked him down. He was at a river drinking. Like, the animal had the instinct. He found some way to get to get him some sustenance. Um, it's a group of black people there who pointed him into the exact direction of where his mule was drinking at the river. He then goes to lay in the woods. He's just laying there butt naked, obscured by some willows, when a man on a horse rides up and calls out to him. The kid is hesitant, but the man says, "I'm white and I'm Christian. Come on out."
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's your identification. White. You can trust me.
I mean, you got to think about back then. I mean, almost, yeah.
At this person is an actual army recruiter looking for the person that beat the Mexican bartender. Or so we're made to believe he's an army recruiter. But at this point, this is a company that was formed just to hunt down Mexicans under a captain named Captain White. The kid says correctly, the war is over. The recruiter says it ain't over. The kid finally comes from behind the willows. Fell on hard times, haven't you? Kid says, I ain't fell on no good ones. Ready to go to Mexico? I ain't lost nothing down there. You better make a choice before you go completely under. What do they give you? Every man gets a horse and ammunition. We'll find you a rifle. What about wages? You won't need them. You get to keep everything you take, land and all. The kid is still hesitant, but the recruiter's horse is making him reconsider. Man tells him how joining up turned his life around, and the kid agrees to meet the captain. So they arrive at the captain's quarters, which are located in a hotel. Captain is writing a letter, and once he finishes it, he addresses the kid. Say, you're the man, huh? What man? The recruiter tells him to address that captain as sir. Captain asks the kid what happened to him, and he repeats the same lie about being robbed. The captain wants to know if Mexicans did it. Some Mexicans, some niggers, and a white or two. Now, remember I said to the people listening to remember that he was traveling with a group of herders, and those herders offered him a permanent spot with them, but then they told him about some guys that was having a slightly more glamorous time, pointed him in their direction because that's where he wanted to be, and send him with food at that. The kid lies and tells the captain that the herders he was with were the robbers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he did. The people who took care of his busted down ass. He says that they are the ones that rob him just to try to salvage some of his misplaced pride in himself. Because he was too embarrassed to say he was just too poor, broke, and his begging wasn't getting him anywhere. So his lies evolved to make it sound more believable. The captain asked the kid what he thinks about the treaty. The captain clearly doesn't want the Mexican-American War to be over. Captain is highly racist against Mexicans. And he goes on to tell war stories. And he says what we're dealing with is a race of degenerates, little better than niggas. And maybe they're no better than them. There's no government in Mexico. There's no God in Mexico. The captain is determined to take Mexico for the USA, even though the war is over. He's a delusional lunatic, I say. That's my commentary on him. You know, captain tells the kid that every man in his company will get a piece of land in Mexico, rich with resources, and that he believes the kid will make his mark on the world. But this is nothing but a sales pitch.
Mm-hmm.
But the kid buys it. He bargains for his rifle, horse, and saddle, and he joins them.
But you also got to
Any
think about the
thoughts?
kid really didn't have anything. So like anything sounds good to him. He had nothing. Like so like if you telling me you gonna give me a rifle and some clean clothes, I mean that sounds like everything.
Yeah, but remember, but look at it further. Look at it past that. Yeah, he did say that, but look at the whole of this situation. Like the kid at this point, at least in the book, I mean, him being walking around butt naked or damn near butt naked in boots that's run through that his feet are about to come out of, and a hat that he made out of grass. He's in that predicament. And instead of just saying I'm down on my luck, he's willing to get a whole group of cattle herders who took care of him killed. Because you know, if they come across them, that those people are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said that they robbed him. You know, the kid is Sergeant Trammell. That Sergeant Trammell is the recruiter who found him. Arrive at one of the camps looking for the corporal to get the kid some clothes and a saddle, but he's not there. They rode into town with two other recruits, and he gets cleaned up. He gets shaven, he gets new clothes, looks like a brand new person. But he notices something. He says the Mexicans who ride past him in this town don't seem like the fabled Mexicans from the captain's stories. Like, is this a tinge of common sense coming through to him? Some character development, maybe? Maybe it is, but we don't know just yet because he hasn't changed much. Um, Kid trades his mule for a saddle. The other recruiters don't have any money, so they suggest going back to the camp. But the kid has a little bit of change left over from the mule trade because he got a few quarters or something from it. And he said, well, we got this and we're going to drink it up. So they go into a bar. The recruits talk about the goings on of their militia company, and they're overheard by an old man at the bar. And he tells them, they'll stop you at the river. Who will? The U.S. Army. The hell they will. The old man says, you better hope that they will. Because if you cross that river, you'll not cross it back. He said, we don't aim to cross it back. We're going to Sonora. What's it, you old man? And then he warns them of trying to carry on a war on the whims of a madman. Let's go to page 43. Because this old man, where he, one second. Old man is a Mennonite. Basically, it's a sect of the Christian religion. Hold on a second. And this is what he says. He looked at them. He spoke to them slowly. Says, the wrath of God lies sleeping. It was hid 1,000,000 years before man. And excuse me. The wrath of God lies sleeping. It was hid 1,000,000 years before men. were, before men were, and only men have the power to wake it. Hell ain't half full, you hear me? You carry on the war, or you carry on war of a madman's making onto a foreign land, and you'll awake more than the dogs. I butchered that, but basically, he's telling them if y'all go over there thinking that y'all can just take the land from those people, you're in for a rude awakening. Basically, warning them. But they just berate him, and then he goes on about his business. And as if it's just not a tangible warning for what he just tried to tell them, the other recruits, other than the kid, the two that he's with, they get into a confrontation, which leads to one of them getting killed right there outside the bar.
Mm-hmm.
The recruit that was from Missouri, and he finally gets a name in death. Who his name was Earl. What you think about the old man's quote? What you think about that part in particular? God's wrath was hid a million years before men were, and men are the only ones that can wake it.
Yeah. I feel like with that quote, it really goes, and it goes into Earl's death too. Like, men awake wrath. Like, and you've been seeing wrath in this book since the beginning, even before the judge. You were hearing about the wrath, when he got shot. So it's like men are definitely the men, like, or just the people in the book are definitely awakening the wrath. So yeah, it makes sense.
And just to illustrate that point further, this is a small thing, so I can say it because it doesn't really spoil what's coming forward. It comes to a point in time where they're traveling and they're being followed by a pack of wolves. And that pack of wolves that are following them not one casualty comes at the hand of a wolf. Even though a pack of wolves are following them, a vicious animal who will kill and eat you if it has to. Every misfortune thus far in the book that's befallen one person has come from the hands of another person. So those are the small things in the book that kind of tie back into what the general themes and some of what the characters are saying, because they're getting followed by a pack of wolves in at least in that part of the book. I don't know if any animal is going to kill somebody later on down the line, but the wolves don't even attempt to attack them. They just follow them, mm-hmm. For a little bit. But it's next man up. So the kid gets the dead man's horse. The militia crossed that river over into Mexico, and they ate wild animals they killed. They sleep that night on cold Mexican ground. There's 46 of them in total. They don't wear a uniform, and this is where you find out that they're not really a part of the army. They're just following behind somebody. They're just following. He's the real life equivalent of these fucking internet warriors from today's time that get on the internet and get a cult following behind them. Except for he did it in real life. Well, he did it in real time. Like it's a fictional book, but in the real world of this book, he got a cult following behind him to follow his radical vision for the world. And his radical vision was him hunting down Mexican people. They barely look like an organized militia group. This emphasizes, this is a side note, emphasizes the unofficial nature of the band. On the sixth day after they crossed over, two of the men fell sick. One died before dark, and by the morning there was another who fell ill to replace him. The remaining two sick people died. They buried the men and they just rolled on.
Mm-hmm.
By mid-morning the next day, another man had died. They buried him and rolled on. Wolves began to follow them. The harsh landscape is even taking its toll on the wagons. On the 12th day, they come across the remains of previous corpses, a man and a mule, and they just ride on. They travel on with the desert showing them no mercy. And they start to travel by night, which isn't much better. Even their animals started to fail. And as they rode on, one of the men began to pray for rain, and within the hour, the rain began to fall. Following day, they rode through the heat with no water and dying horses. They come across a hut. Captain and two soldiers go into the hut, but they find no one. Somebody's here somewhere. The coals are still hot, the captain said. Captain orders the sergeant to hunt down the dwellers of the hut. They looked in every direction, but it's nothingness everywhere that they looked. And soon two soldiers dragged an old man out of the stable covered in dirt. The captain turns away in disgust. He's pissing himself. Get him the hell away from me. He's a half-wit. You know, that's the 1800s version of the R word.
Mm-hmm.
They made camp near that hut for the night and then traveled on the next day. They passed through a ruined town and made camp at an old church. They ride on and eventually see dust in the distance. Oh, it's dust that they asses probably wish that they never saw.
Oh, of course. This
The captain looks through his telescope, sees what might be horses. He calls up his Mexican guide, name is Candelario, looks to look and assess the situation. He tells them it's not buffalo, but it could be horses. As they get closer, they see it's a mix of horses, cattle, and mule, over 1,000 in number. The herders are a handful of Native Americans, maybe a few Mexicans. What do you make of it, Captain? A group of heathen stock thieves. Now, at this point, I thought the captain was about to set his company, his band of weirdos loose on those herders and kill them all.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see what happens. See if I was right or if I was wrong. Maybe a dozen riders, they seem to have noticed us, but they don't seem concerned. And the captain smiled, says, we may see some sport here today.
They saw some damn sport, all right.
The full herd is now upon them. Captain is fully ready to sick his company upon the herders, but before he could act, a group of armed and dangerous riders emerged, some with lances, some with arrows drawn. The attack was relentless. The company returned rifle fire, but it was too late. Many of them were already riddled with arrows, and the lancemen were already upon them. The kid's horse had already collapsed as he struggled to return fire. Other men had been ran through with lances, and some had been scalped. The riders surrounded the company, lancing them, dismembering them, gutting them, covering themselves in the victims' blood and guts. They even sodomized a few of them. The ones still clinging to life stumbled around, vomiting up blood. They were left maimed in a They're left in a maimed pile of arrowed, lanced, and scalped bodies. Blood on the dirt, dying men groaning and gibbering, and the horses lay there screaming. The words of the Mennonite resonate. That was my side note. Go ahead on, give your rundown.
Death. That's the rundown. Straight death. People getting scalped, people getting sodomized. Like, this is just, it's hell. It's literal hell.
But let's look at it this way. They were getting scalped and sodomized by the very people they came across that bridge to hunt down.
Exactly. And that's what I thought was so crazy, because he was like, yeah, we might get us some sport. And literally, they got ran down on in the worst way. Because
you have to remember that Mexican people are descendants of Native Americans.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they are. At least the dark-skinned Mexican people are descendants of Native Americans. They got colonized. That's why they speak Spanish. But they got eviscerated. You know what I mean? Like, we may see some sports. A single soul emerged from the gored pile of bodies, covered in blood and urine.
Mm-hmm.
The riders, who they call savages, have moved to higher ground. The light from their fire is resonating in the night. Soul survivor keeps his head down and moves forward by moonlight. He reaches an outcropping at daylight, and he hears a voice call out to him. The survivor is the kid. The mysterious voice is a man named Sproul. He was injured. His arm in particular was injured. He was holding on to it. Kid realizes he wasn't the sole survivor after all. Actually, 8 of them had escaped. And in the night, most of them moved on, left Sproul behind, the captain among them. They just left. They come across a dark stain on the They walk through the desert heat. They try to get up against rocks to get whatever shade they could, and then they come across a dark stain on a rock that looks like it could be water that's seeping down from somewhere. So they decide to follow it. They eventually come across a cave and spend the night there. But they get up and continue before the sun rises. Then by the afternoon, they come across ground already traveled by the war party. So this is somewhere that they had been before the group got set upon. You know? One second. Oh, don't delete nothing. Don't delete nothing. Let me get back. Anyway, they came across a mule that had been killed by a lance, and a path. The path narrowed. They squeezed between some rocks, and they come across a bush with the corpses of 7 or 8 babies hanging on it. Some of them to the point where they're unrecognizable as human bodies. Like, what's going on, bro? Like, what is happening here, man?
And it's to the point where it's not like they ease you into it. It's not like, it's sugar coated. Like, it's actually Cormac puts it out there, and it's like, I'm reading this book, and yes, I do like the book, but this book is kind of intense. It's intense. It's
Intense
it's it's intense,
is correct,
and
bro.
this is the
Intense is very
first
good.
5 chapters. Like it's a lot more of this book left, and like if it's already like this in the first 5 chapters, let alone the first few pages, I really don't know what else to expect.
Yeah. It's hard to know what's coming up next in this book, truthfully, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to know. But they continue and they come across a village. They had signs of life, but everybody who lived there had already been killed. They move past piles of bodies in the street and they sit in the plaza. The kids suggest that they try to head back to Texas, but Sproul doesn't think they'll make it. He's coughing and he reveals he's afflicted with consumption anyway, so he's basically dying. The kid walks around the plaza and comes back. We should just hold up here for the night. I said, but what if the Indians come back? I said, why would they come back? They had already killed everybody in that village. Excuse me. The kid wants to scout out the houses and look for food and supplies and a place to sleep, but Sproul is already given up. He pretty much refuses to move. He's not about to help. Kid finds beans and tortillas and he warms them up in the smoldering remains of a burnt down house. So some wood or whatever the house was made out of still had embers coming off of it, and he just used those embers to warm his food up.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, it just is what it is it not?
It definitely is.
When he returns to this plaza, Sproul is gone, but he had just moved on to the church. He hadn't went far. Scalped, naked, and partly eaten bodies laid on the church floor. Again, scalped, naked, and partly eaten bodies lay on the church floor.
The lawless.
Neither of them speak. They just observe the scene until the kid suggested they leave the church. 2 buzzards stand on top of a dead child in the doorway. Sproul tries to shoo them away, but they don't fly. They just flap their wings in defiance at him. They leave the town the first thing the next morning, passing more dead animals and people along the way. They've depleted their water supply by that evening, and they slept that night just out in the sand. They wake up in the morning when it's still cool out, and then they walk until they nearly faint. They come across a tipped over wagon and climb under it just for shade and sleep until it's dark. And then they moved on again. Sproul states that his injured arm is starting to stink. The kid offers to look at it. Sproul refuses, saying, what the hell can you do about it? He says, suit yourself. And Sproul says, well, I aim to do that. I aim to do just that. They travel looking just for a trace of water, but of course they do what? They find none. And this is one of the most hopeless parts so far that came up next. They finally crest a mountain, meaning they come to the top of a mountain, and in the distance they see a lake with a city in the further distance. They're too tired to keep going though, so they sleep amongst the rocks, thinking that the first thing in the morning they'll go down to that lake. But when they wake up, there's no lake and there's no city. It's just a barren wasteland. At this point, Sproul collapses down to the ground. His arm is swollen and leaking. The kid looks across the valley and sees someone coming. Sproul is scared. He wonders if it's Indians, Native Americans. It's too far to tell, he says. What happened to the lake? We both saw it. People see what they want. Well, what if it's Native Americans? Well, it likely is. So where can we hide? They waited all day and then they went down into the canyon to look for water and they found none. By the afternoon, the horsemen were in view. They were Mexicans, not Native Americans. Sproul tells the kid to save himself, but the kid doesn't say anything. The first horse that passes them was the captain's. It carried the captain's saddle, but it didn't carry the captain. The riders rolled past and nodded at them, and they kept going, but the kid called out to them and ran behind them. Riders turn around laughing. In Spanish, they say, "What do you want?" And they laugh more. Are they looking for Indians? One of the riders wonders out loud. This is also in Spanish. At this point, they're laughing so hard that they're basically literally rolling around on the ground laughing at the kid and Sproul. They just asked for water, though. And the rider said, "Well, why don't you have any?" You thirsty? So? Why you ain't got no water? Don't you know it's hot out here? Mm-hmm. That's basically what they said to him. And why don't you have any? It's dry out here. And then their leader offers some. Kid drinks it ravenously, tugging at the canteen. As the leader tried to pull it back for him, he didn't notice that the leader's expression had changed. Leader then kicks the canteen away from the kid and it's starting to spill in the dirt, but Sproul got it before too much of that water was wasted, and then he started to drink from it.
Desperation.
The kid snatches it back from Sproul, but the leader approaches them with his sword drawn and he stuck the blade under the canteen strap. It stopped just 2 or 3 inches from the kid's neck. And then he raises the blade and slides the canteen down the sword, and the riders just continue to laugh hysterically. Why didn't you hide? We were thirsty. Very thirsty, eh? The leader thought for a minute and then he said, "When the lamb is lost in the mountain and they cry, sometimes comes the mother, sometimes comes a wolf." Oh, he be saying some shit in this book.
That's what I'm saying.
He be saying some stuff, man. The mother came this time, not the wolf. The riders turn and then they leave. Sproul and the kid make it to a valley by dusk, and then they lay and sleep until something lands on Sproul. It's a vampire bat that begins to drink blood from his neck. The kid chases the bat off with a rock, but Sproul holds his bloodied hands out at the kid and cups his ears and howls in outrage. The kid doesn't say anything, he just spit, and then he thinks the kid is the one that was drinking his blood. Accused him of being gay. That's literally what he did. He says, "I know you're kind. What the hell is wrong with you?" He either was accusing them of being gay or a cannibal. Next, they came across a dry wash. This is the next morning, and the kid digs into the sand and strikes water. He soaks it up with his shirt and then squeezes the water from his shirt into his mouth. And he drunk like that for an hour. And it was Spruill's turn. He refused to remove his shirt, and then he attempts to drink straight from the hole, but he just gets a mouthful of sand. Let me use your shirt. Use your own damn shirt. We ain't friends. We just commiserating right now. He takes his shirt off. By this time, his arm is swollen. It's leaking pus to the point where the shirt just stuck to it and he had to peel it off of his arm. And worms had begun to burrow into the wounds. But he didn't care about that. He just drank water. They came to a crossroad and they sat. But Spruill sat down and refused to move. There actually was a lake this time, but he wouldn't look. He's all but given up on life at this point.
Yeah, that's what I literally was about to say. I think Spruill had just given up, and Spruill didn't even want to try anymore. Like, he didn't want to try to live. He didn't want to try to keep pushing forward. He would have been cool with just dying right there.
Yep. It was already too much. It drained. It had drained all fight out of him. It drained all fight out of him. And you could say something like he's been through so much, but these people put themselves through it all. They were the ones that went and thought that they was about to conquer Mexico. Mm-hmm. Like how delusional that you have to be to think you about to conquer Mexico with you and 45 other dudes. Like,
hey, but when you literally have nothing and they promising you more than what you got, it sounds appealing to you.
You would have been better off just trying to steal cattle in the United States, even though you could get punished by death for that back in those days. But getting punished by death for stealing cattle, getting punished by death for stealing cattle and getting scalped and sodomized. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ended up in the same place. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But we continue on. Hold on 1 second. Notes done closed up. Gotta open them back up. Where is it? Notes, where you go? All right, here they are. Anyway, he refuses to move. They look and they see tracks in the road, and they come to the conclusion that the south is the direction that's been traveled most. So that's the direction that the kid decides to go. He left Spruill, but Spruill wasn't really ready for death because he got up and followed him. They traveled for about 2 miles before they just decided to sit. Is that thunder? Spruill asked. The kid looks at the sky. It ain't nothing. I feel it in the ground. Kid sees the dust, then a wagon. A family is on the wagon. He tried to go around them, but the kid halted him. He halted the mule, and then him and Spruill boarded the wagon. They just hopped on. It was a family, kids, and all of that on there, but they didn't harm these people. But then again, they weren't in any position to. Mm-hmm. You know, like
because they finally just as down bad themselves.
Mm-hmm. They arrive in a town. They had slept on the wagon all day and night. The kid was sleeping and waking constantly. He attempted to wake Spruill, but Spruill was laying cold and unresponsive, aka he was dead. So the kid gets out of the wagon. At this point, the wagon is parked. Like, they're just in a town. So he gets out of the wagon. Decided he was going to take a piss. But he was seized by Mexican soldiers mid-piss. Tied up, and he was walked through a town bazaar. They threw him into a corral with 3 other refugees that wandered and retched and shat all over the cell. The kid begins to talk to another refugee that was from Georgia. Finds out he was one of the soldiers who survived the scalping attack. Quote unquote soldiers, you know, they aren't really soldiers. He survived it. He starts telling him about his predicament. I was sick as a dog and afraid I would die. And then I was afraid I wouldn't die. That's crazy, ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
I saw one of them riding the captain's horse. Georgian said they killed, or the kid said that to the captain. I mean, to the Georgian. Georgian said they killed the captain. And they killed Clark and another boy who I never learned the name of. Then they gambled to see who would get the captain's horse. And they gambled again to see who would get his pistols. And they gambled to see who would get his head. The bodies of their comrades were displayed out in the market, and the captain's body laid in a wallow, half eaten by pigs. Little kids looked down at the prisoners and tried to piss on their heads. The kid takes a rock and hits one of them square in the face, dropping them. But a little ray of sunshine came through. A woman brought them some food, even smuggled them in some sweets. But the next morning, they were put on mules and sent to Chihuahua City, which is the capital at this point.
Mm-hmm.
What you think about the fate that befell the captain? Well, he was nothing more than a game to his killers.
I mean, it kind of just goes to show you how he thought he had so much power, and in actuality, he was nothing. He was nothing.
What did the Mennonites say? He was just a madman.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. It kind of parallels to this day and age. Like when, what's that guy's name? Was it Timothy McVeigh? Let me look him up. Yeah, it was Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber, who went and blew up that building in Oklahoma City and took out a couple city blocks with it, killed people, the biggest domestic terrorist attack ever, and largely nothing changed. His vision for the world didn't come to pass because he did that. He killed a bunch of people and then he got executed. That's all that happened. The captain in this book thought that his vision of the world was going to come to pass, but he didn't even get to kill anybody, at least for the time that we knew him, and then he got executed. Like, that's all that happened. They rode for 5 days through mountain and desert, through towns at the gaze of onlookers. They stopped in the desert to rest. The guards spoke no English, but they were afraid of the Native Americans. In the rare times when they did speak in Spanish, they spoke about witches. And they escorted them to the capital, still bound by the hands. And they then trotted through the city in plain sight, past food stalls, beggars, orphans, everything in between. Then they reach a dungeon/prison where they'll be taking their stay. And then a tall man walks past the kid to take a piss. And then he addresses him in the middle of the cell. You don't know me, do you? And the kid said, yeah, I know you. I know you're hiding a tanyard, whatever the hell that is. And that's the end of part one.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, he's locked in a cell, and a familiar face has come back. He was described as tall, so I thought it was the judge too. But that's the end of part one. They don't tell you who it was in part one. I just know it's not the judge.
It's not. See, and I thought it was the judge.
I'll tell you who it is when we get done. That's the end of part one. Overall thoughts on part one.
Part one was crazy. I'm really ready to see what's about to happen in the other parts.
Yeah, it's setting up at least. I think this is all just set up for more shocking things that are coming down the road.
Same.
That's what I think. I think it's just getting you ready so you don't. It's like when you look at certain parts of the book, like when you see how desperate he was to where he was drinking that dirty water, that shows you that yes, he's desperate enough to join up with a so-called army company, even though he knows that there's no war going on.
Right.
So that small piece of information that we got that he drunk some dirty, salty, disgusting water from a stinking man and ate rotten meat with him. That's the state of desperation he was in. That he joined up with a militia group that was trying to declare war on a whole country after the governments of the country that he's from and the country that they plan to attack had already brokered a peace treaty. Like, if you're thinking straight, you know that that's never going to work. And not only did the consequence of that is that most of them ended up dead, scalped, raped, and everything in between. The rest of them ended up captured by the Mexican soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, two of them, because the rest of them are dead. The captain ended up killed with his head being used in a card game. You know, that's how this ended up going. So, like, I think it's set up. I think that the world is being built right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it was an accident that they said that the Mexican soldiers that were guarding them were scared of witchcraft. That don't seem like something it seemed like a small detail that's gonna come back to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what it seems like. I think we gonna run across something to do with that. And I say that because it already seemed like the judge is kind of supernatural himself.
Yeah.
Like the way
I agree. To the point where he's for one, he's huge. For two, he has no hair on his face, his head or his face, and he's a grown man. So,
but got something that we skipped over. He's huge, but he has small hands, like he's a small person.
Right.
Which is also strange. Over 7 feet tall. And then on top of that, he came back across. He got across that street in what should have been what seemed like the blink of an eye. He was already sitting in the bar drinking by the time the kid and the guy he was with on that particular night, they cut themselves out of the tent and escaped before everybody else poured out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like it's just he seems to have some type of supernatural aura to him. Not to say he's a ghost, not to say he's a demon or nothing like that, but it's something going on with him. So that's why it makes me think that the witchcraft fear is just not. It's not something that's. It make me think that that's foreshadowing. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
That's gonna come back into play later on. But I've only literally read like once I got past once I got to the end of chapter 5, I think I read the first 3 or 4 pages of chapter 6. So I don't know. Like I don't know. But I do know this. We'll be back next week with chapter 6 through 10.
Next week, 6 through 10.
That's it. Yeah.